Okay, cool.
So I'm Pat Mueller. I work at IBM in U.S. and North Carolina. My main contribution to the PhoneGap Cordova project is the winery debug stuff, and I have very strong opinions on some subjects, like the way we did the modules, which I loved the way that ended up. So I was rooting for that the whole time. That's about it.
Cool. I'm Brian. I've been with the project since the beginning. I work at Adobe Systems, sometimes in Vancouver, sometimes in San Francisco. Usually I'm not at either place. I tend to travel around a lot and talk about PhoneGap. It's probably my main contribution, but I also spend a lot of time in the Apache mailing list talking shit.
Everyone wants to know if you code.
I code.
We don't let him code anymore.
I'm not very good at it, but I do.
We prefer when he doesn't. Actually, wait, that's me. Hey everyone, yeah, my name's Dave Johnson. I work at Adobe on the PhoneGap build project for a while there. And I've been around working on PhoneGap since the beginning, just like Brian. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Gord. You may know me from such talks as the last one. I'm at Research in Motion, or BlackBerry. My main contributions to Cordova are the JavaScript layer, as well as I work a lot on the BlackBerry implementation, so cleaning that up and trying to, I just added BB10 support, which is coming out with 2.1. Yeah, I'm probably one of the few that are still coding on the project they're on. No.
So my name is Michael, and I work for Google. We've put together a very small team. There's 3 developers of us that are hopefully going to contribute quite a bit to Cordova as time goes on. So we're actually out of Canada in the Waterloo location, and a lot of developers there work on mobile and native apps, and so we've done some overlapping efforts for what Cordova team's doing, and so it's time for us to merge, and yeah, we think it's a super project, and hopefully we'll be committing more. I'm a pretty fresh face here on the panel.
I am Paul Plaquette. I'm working for Intel. We are involved in porting Cordova 2000. I'm working at the Open Source Technology Center in Montpellier office in south of France.
And I am Patrick Portland, so I am working on the same site for Intel as Paul. And I have been working on the Windows 7, so desktop operating system, support for Cordova applications.
Cool. Okay. Well, I've got like 1 or 2 questions, and then I'll kind of open out to you guys, and we'll chat. My question is, I mean, PhoneGap, when I first came across it, gave me the device APIs that the browser didn't give me that day today, and things like the accelerometer and some of the things that we're actually starting to see landing in browsers already. So I think iOS 6 is supposed to have camera access, kind of, but you can see it coming, but obviously we've got device motion and so on. How much of the device APIs are being adopted, and messaging APIs and all that really new fancy shit? Because you guys need to plug it all in first, and then the browsers come along and actually implement it.
Hello? Oh. So, yeah, the original vision was that we wanted to basically polyfill device APIs. And the reason we wanted to go that route was because it was the easiest. They're cross-platform, so you get, accelerometers are all on all devices, but title bar might not be. And then as time went on, we realized that, standardization would be important, and so did the W3C, and they created the Device API Working Group. And we've had this sort of awkward relationship with them where we'll implement stuff and then tell them what's broken, and they'll ignore us and add more broken things. At some point, we realized that all this effort, everything we were building were plugins, so we've put our focus towards plugins so that we could actually accelerate working on device APIs. I guess, I'm not a browser vendor or creator, but I know one. And maybe we pass the mic down.
I was just going to quickly add, which is kind of cool, is I'm noticing in Cordova.js is a lot of the newer platforms being added on are just kind of adding JavaScript proxies to some of the common stuff. So see, our accelerometer API on a lot of devices are just funneling to device motion events, or our Compass API on a couple are just kind of going to device orientation, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of neat watching as some browsers pick up the steam and do more dApp stuff that is more forward-facing. The polyfilling is a lot less on those.
Is Cordova going to move out of the way and switch back to, like, device motion's a good example. The device motion, switching out of the way, getting rid of the accelerometer API, because
Yes.
I want to be, I'm keen on coding against the web and just general browsers, and then dropping it into PhoneGap because it doesn't have access to something, and then I want to be able to actually remove it once the mobile phones have actually caught up. So if I code against the PhoneGap navigator.accelerometer, then I'm fucked. So.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Like in addition to like dApp and that stuff, those APIs, there's a lot of them that are never going to come into the browser, or it's going to be a while because there's security and permissioning issues that are hard to overcome, and it's like certainly a battle for people like Google, to put like contact access into Chrome. How soon is that going to happen in Chrome? It's not going to be tomorrow, not going to be next year. Even in native code, people go in and they just steal all your contacts. So it's like, imagine if that was accessible on the web, that would just be fucked. So there's some things like that where Cordova is always going to have a place for some of those things.
Did I read that there's an official plugins, PhoneGap sanctioned plugins, or did I dream that? Does that exist?
You were pretty drunk last night.
I don't recall any dreams, but.
Well, they're bundled right now. The idea is that they're bundled right now, but the idea is that we want to remove all the plugins. So Cordova ships with just a bridge, and then we use CLI tooling like Gord was hinting at.
But what I mean is, so the messaging API, I was talking about an SMS plugin yesterday with one of the guys in the workshop. If there's, I know that, like, for instance, a jQuery project was trying to get to the point where they had sanctioned plugins, and it partly became jQuery UI. Is that something that you guys, does that exist? That doesn't exist then.
There are some that we support. I think the Facebook plugin would be a good example of this. Dave, you can talk to it. You wrote it.
Yeah. The Facebook plugin is an example of that. Now, so the Facebook plugin, it works on iOS and Android, so it's also tough because it doesn't work on all platforms. Right. So it's hard to say like, oh yeah, here is like a canonical Cordova plugin, for example. Where that goes, we're not exactly even sure. At Adobe, for us personally, it may be we may take it in and start curating the Facebook plugin at Adobe as like the official PhoneGap Facebook plugin, right? And we would take on managing it and accepting contributions and still be open source and all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, that's something that's sort of being figured out right now, very slowly, and like walking around blind in the dark. But
the other thing is, if you look at Node.js as kind of an analog of this, Node ships a set of modules with Node itself, right? Process events, whatever. Well, process not really, but in kind of the way I see things going, and this is just crazy dream because we haven't done it yet, but in the future when you get Cordova, what you'll be getting is the bridge and a set of the official plugins. I think I refer to them now as like the batteries included plugins, which is kind of the Python model as well. They give you a whole bunch of stuff. But I think we probably want to keep that pretty small until a plugin has really proved that it's portable and useful and all that stuff. And until then, we'll have a way for people to have their plugins discovered easily. Hopefully, it's another part of the dream. So it would be no different really than something like Node.js, where there's a set of things that we support, and then there's a bunch of other stuff out there, and we don't necessarily support those.
Yeah, so I saw it definitely as external, like not preloaded plugins. I just mean these are stable. But I guess the big problem is you code the plug. I mean, I wrote a plugin and I wrote it for iOS because I needed to solve a specific problem. I didn't write the Android one and then a Windows one and then a Bada one and so on and so forth. So that takes quite a long time, which kind of almost leads nicely onto my next question. you know, most of the mobile web view environments you're working inside is WebKit, right? So you've got a fairly consistent environment. And then Windows kind of came along, and I've got an IE9 web view. And I was coding just a little project my own the other day, and it was I was making use of Event Source, which is in Chrome and Safari, and you know I knew it would be there, and I'd polyfill IE, but then I tested it in on the Android, and it is WebKit, but it's WebKit for like the browser for Android. So when are we going to see a Chrome WebKit web view?
So, put on the spot here. I haven't seen any official announcements there, but I did do a little bit of research before coming here, and I did see some contributions towards upstreaming. So Chrome folks are working on a web view. You know, you can see that, but you know, a whole bunch of us have talked, and I wouldn't be too optimistic about seeing this next month or anything. If it ships, it'll ship with the next Android platform or later. There hasn't been an announcement. And then even then, you know, adoption of Android and all that, and then support for older devices. So
yeah, but mobile phones turn around quickly, and you know, it's a fast. I mean, it's disappointing to kind of know that I've got Chrome on this Android, and yet actually I've got Android browser for Android in there, and it just kind of gave me a little punch in the gut. And
yeah, no, it does for us as well. No, there are a couple of potential options for some hacks, but nothing official that we know of, and it'll take a little bit. But I mean, it's inevitable, right?
hopefully. Cool. I want to open it up to you guys. So, a question right at the front to start off with.
Hi, I want to know what's in the more dreamy plugin lands thing, how you want to get everyone in this room who wants to write plugins to be able to actually write and share plugins. Like, what's the roadmap and who's in charge and when can we expect it? And I want plugins to not be like horrible editing XML anymore. And what's the stuff that's in the pipeline for that?
Get him out of here.
Soon. Very soon.
So, plugins.
Well,
The last time I wrote a plugin was quite a while ago, so is it still quite painful to write and then do all the different cross-platform plugins?
So the API is solid and supported and documented, and we're going to keep the same API. The first issue, so like last year we changed a lot of stuff, like the entire namespace of the project, and most of the, twice, yeah, actually twice, and most of the function signatures and the JavaScript. And many of the execution bridges. But besides changing everything, so now that we got that stuff solid, it's all about tooling, right? So I'll talk about that later.
Okay, we're going to have more than one question. Got a question? Yep.
Hi. We see a lot of big mobile web players here contributing to the PhoneGap project. And what about Apple? We don't see them here. So is there something wrong with them or what?
Yep.
You guys are able to have an ear. Do you have an ear of Apple at all? Do you get to talk to them? Because I mean, they don't really exist. It's a myth, right? These people.
Next question.
I mean, one way to interact with Apple is through WebKit, and so I'm a WebKit contributor as well. And you can't have interaction with Apple people there, but they're just really as closed-mouthed about future plans as they are anywhere. And you know, there's kind of standing joke. Somebody will post a question to WebKit dev and say, "Hey, when's Apple going to ship this?" or something. No one from Apple will respond, but somebody else will be like, "Just don't go there." You know?
Hey.
Yep.
Yes. We've had a lot of talks today about the new web platforms emerging, like Tizen and Boot2Gecko, Firefox OS. What do you guys think about the efforts in W3C around sysapps? And there's been work going on this week on, closing on the charter and things like that, and getting the votes down. So what's, how is, Cordova going to interact with sysapps? What are the frictions, and where is it love at first sight? How is it working out?
Do you mean sysapps as in other apps that are running the platform, or do you mean use?
It's a W3C.
It's a W3C.
It's a new working group, the W3C. So there was DAP, Device API Working Group, and DAP's mission was to figure out device APIs. And they spec'd a whole bunch of APIs, and a lot of people started to implement them, and then they realized, whoa. There's no security runtime model at all, and no permissioning model. So you could imagine right now when you navigate to a page that needs geolocation, it's like, hey, can I use your geolocation? Well, in a few years, if it were to work that way, then it would be like, hey, can I use your geolocation? Can I access your file system? Can I read your contacts? Can I turn on your camera? And you'd have this barrage of modal dialogues, which is hell. So sysapps is Mozilla, mostly the Boot2Gecko guys, Chrome OS type people, Microsoft, Metro. So there's this sort of convergence happening where the idea of an installable web app is coming about, and it's very clear that there needs to be a runtime security model before we can start opening up these APIs to the sandbox. So that's the story with sysapps. Adobe will be involved. Imagine RIM will be involved, and IBM will be involved in some fashion. And Cordova will be a good surface area to prototype.
So that's the installable apps is PhoneGap's kind of Cordova's kind of
I think personally, I think LeRoux, it's like it will have a very close relationship with sysapps, much like it was previously when we were following DAP, right, for most of the APIs. So I think in general, sysapps is going to be good, and hopefully something good will come out of it. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it's just getting started right now. But so we'll see where it goes. But soon, yeah.
Next question.
We got a question at the front? Yeah, at the front here. Anyone at the back want to ask questions, or are you at the back because you don't want to be asking questions?
Sorry, me again. I've had a great 6 months following whitelisting and opening and
Next question.
No. and opening in native browser on iOS versus Android, and whether or not you're in an iframe, and whitelisted here, don't whitelist, whitelisted here, underscore blank, rel equals external. I followed it all, and I gave up and just overwrote. I just implemented my own is URL whitelisted for both, and have then followed where it's moved as you've moved stuff around. Is there a fundamental reason? So you've got your JavaScript is all nicely done now, and the same JavaScript across all platforms. Is there actually a fundamental reason why the settings don't work the same? As far as, or is it just because different people have coded it? And I ask this because there's been a fix here, and then it was a 1.5, and then by the time people read the blog, it's gone somewhere else. And people have actually argued online, well, why should it work the same? Why should people be complaining that it doesn't work the same in two different browsers? Well, hell, that's what PhoneGap is about. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, is there really a fundamental reason why they can't work the same? I have it working the same because I need it to work the same, so why is it different?
Yeah, I think no. We're trying to move towards is using the W3C like config XML kind of standard, something at BlackBerry already does. If the WebWorks platform that we code on top of already uses config XML for all its config data. So the idea is to start bringing that. So I think it started to land some of the commits to bring some of the other platforms to use config XML for like the starting of just like the metadata, like app name, version, license, icon. And then with that comes the whitelisting, like you said, as well as permissions for APIs and device access. So yes, the plan is to move towards the config XML as the standard like config like kind of cache for everything across platforms. So it is a problem we know about. It's a problem that we're trying to like rally in all the platforms together to use that flag.
Yeah, and certainly it was originally an issue of different developers only concerned about their platform. And I think there was some consensus on the mailing list just very recently about what like window.open_blank should do. like when child browser is installed, when child browser is not installed, and if the URL that you're trying to open is whitelisted or if it's not whitelisted. So I think that we actually have some consensus on that now, but whether or not, it's probably not implemented today in this way, but. 2.2. Yeah. 2.2. But there is some consensus, I think, and it should be, soon, so. Which I'll be very happy about.
And the whitelisting is probably one of the more complicated kind of functions there because there's so many options, right, in terms of the targets and how you're going to open a browser window and all that stuff. And so, I kind of see it as, well, the early stuff was kind of just getting stuff working. Now people want very precise control, and we need to figure out how much control to give people versus how much we can even provide. Some of the platforms didn't support some of the kind of modalities of particular things. So I think we'll have to figure it out. And frankly, if you need some very specific behavior, you may end up having to do your own. But hopefully, we'll be able to target the 99% case use for everything, including that. But that one is really a particularly tough one. And you know that if you followed that mailing list.
I agree. I think when I read everything, I think what I sense is that people's final end use and ways of using it is probably not anywhere how you envisioned. I think that's really where a lot becomes, and you can sort of see that in the threads. So.
Okay, we've got another question over in the back, or almost the back. Yeah.
Yes, hello. I have a commercial question, which I asked Adobe when they took over the PhoneGap project. At that time, they weren't sure if it was going to be a commercial project or going to be like an open source community like. And I want to know if they set up a mind about that. So is it going to be a commercial and the build server?
Well, so build is the revenue model, or at least that was the idea. I mean, that's how it's commercialized, but you can't have an ecosystem for an open source project without the open source project part. So there's no plan to close our source or do anything evil. That's why I went to Apache.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've just got a question because I feel like the guys at the end are kind of being neglected a bit. And not to put too much focus on you guys, but what is it that Intel and separately Google are contributing? Actually, I mean, I know I can probably look at the commit logs and look, but I think it'd be interesting for other people to kind of know what you're doing.
Actually, I have not really a good idea of what our relationship between Google and Intel.
So the Intel contribution is mostly focused on Tizen. There are 3 or 4 engineers working on Tizen, which is an important target for Intel and Samsung, and will become more important in the months to come. And there are smaller contributions. So one is the one I am working on, so enabling Cordova on Windows 7. That has not been integrated into the Apache infrastructure yet. It is not mature enough, but that's the goal. And okay, so the idea is to allow executing JavaScript applications as native applications on Windows 7, supporting the use of Cordova APIs.
Okay. And does anyone know about kind of IE10? I know I'm kind of jumping way ahead, but using the IE10 web view?
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I'll let Google.
Yes,
yeah.
but there are several aspects to this question. So one side is the desktop mode on the Windows 8, and later support of IE10 web views on Windows 7. So I already tested the Cordova for Windows 7 shell on Windows 8. It works. The baseline so far is IA9. We may move it to IA10 in the future if that makes things simpler.
Because there's lots of sexy APIs in IE10 that we can get kind of...
Yes. But it is not out already.
APIs can be sexy.
And the other aspect of that is Windows 8, so modern UI support. But I'm not the one to talk about it.
That's cool.
Are we
And-
allowed to talk about it? I don't know.
Sorry?
Are we allowed to talk about Win8?
Intel has contributed partial implementation for Windows 8, but Adobe is working on the same topic, so there is merging ongoing.
Okay, shall we find out from Google what they're contributing?
Yes, I'm Google. So just some quick history and just what we're doing now to answer your first question. So I'm a really fresh face here, like I said, so I've just been fixing some iOS bugs for iOS 6 and whatnot, and just figuring things out, looking for bigger things to contribute moving forward. Possibly the new plugin structures or whatnot, but we'll see. Another team member, Braden, has been working also bug fixing more for Android, but he's working on notifications. And so he's had a long, good discussion recently about that moving forward, and had some chats today even about how we might help more. Andrew Grieve has been quite active. He's been there for probably the longest of all of us. He's the TL on the team, so and very recently he's been doing quite a bit of work on the actual exec bridge and improving performance and benchmarking it, and we think that's quite interesting and important work, and I think he's made good progress there. So moving forward, Google in general just wants to make the web better. You know, we're part of Chrome and Apps team, and so in the particular location where we are, which is in Canada, in Waterloo, there are quite a bit of other teams that are doing web development and mobile web development, hybrid development, and so they've implemented lots of similar functionality to Cordova itself, and so we might be looking to those teams to see the problems that they've solved and what can we bring in to Cordova. Can we move anything to Cordova? That sort of thing. So we're having conversations internally like that. We're also going to look at the problem points that we have with writing Cordova apps, and see if we can't get in touch with other team members like Chrome, like the WebView and whatnot, and try to bring that to people's attention. And then finally, in terms of like hosted apps, it was already touched on that Cordova is an interesting experimental point where we could try to see if we can implement hosted apps using Cordova to run on mobile. And actually, we've started some early experimentation there too. And it works twofold, right? It would be nice to run hosted apps through Cordova, but also, you know, working on it in general, we're finding that there's, you know, the existing APIs, existing structures very lacking as well. And so it's a symbiotic relationship there. So there's quite a bit.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. We had a question in the corner. Yeah, the front.
Me again, sorry. Today we had a couple of very interesting sessions about the internationalization of apps and the emergence of breaks and all that type of stuff. From the point of view of the config XML and other infrastructure pieces of Cordova, including PhoneGap build, how is internationalization going to be addressed? Is this something on the radar today, or?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it is kind of IBM anyway. IBM has done a lot of internationalization, globalization, accessibility stuff, a lot of this kind of interesting stuff that's really kind of on the fringe. A lot of people don't think about it until they need to get their final app out, you know. But I don't really know a whole lot about it. The one thing I have heard is that at least some of the internationalization stuff is some of the techniques they're looking at using they seem way easier than like things we've had to deal with in Java in the past. So that's about all I can say, because that's about all I know about it.
And we had a question just behind, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a controversial question. Have you guys put any thought in video playback and DRM support, especially given Adobe's Flash Access DRM and Google Widevine?
Adobe does have a license for the H.264 codec.
Didn't the BBC Olympics app have DRM video? Was that DRM video?
Yeah, NBC used something called Primetime. So Adobe's definitely got to focus on video, and there's probably an opportunity in the future to integrate those ideas.
And that's a drop-in plugin, though, I assume, as well, isn't it? Is that right?
What?
Was it a drop-in plugin that they used? Or, no? Okay. We got any more questions?
Right in the back up here. In the back row.
Christ, I can't see. Yeah. Okay, right at the back.
Sorry, I have a question. I see that there is a lot of movement about the Facebook plugin. Is also some work going around for integration with Google for authentication. I mean, to use the same kind of integration, just like Facebook plugin, to do some kind of a standard integration with any authentication provider or something like that.
So let me just get it out of the way that I have no idea. I'm not aware of anything.
Are you talking about a basic like a plugin that allows you to auth, right? Yeah. So someone could.
I mean, that's a common thing. Like everybody's always doing their own flavor of OAuth. Like whether it's like the Salesforce uses PhoneGap for their mobile SDK, their hybrid mobile SDK, and they essentially wrote their own, sort of forked it just to do their special OAuth. So it's certainly a very common thing. And the way the Facebook plugin works, actually, it jumps out to the native Facebook app has to be installed, or it jumps out to the browser and then does it that way. But alternatively, if you want everything to stay in your app, then that's the case where you'll want to use the child browser, and then you'll have these like nice whitelisting issues and whatever else you have to deal with. So there's no that I'm aware of. I don't think there's any like standard OAuth plugin or anything like that that would work across whatever identity provider that you want to integrate with.
Any other? Yeah, one down on the left.
One thing I always felt was difficult to do is to do data processing in PhoneGap. If you have a large amount of data, how do you get that into the JavaScript engine? Are we doing something to get that better in some way?
I've got a kind of supplementary question with that as well, because getting things like camera data, the image data out takes a long time, but it's coming out as a string. Is there any kind of way of doing basically data, binary I/O? It's just a similar kind of question, right? Yeah? Yeah.
So can I, is it just the data transfer rates that are the problem, or the time it takes to process and crunch the data afterwards, or is it both questions?
It depends.
It would be both. I mean, basically, if you take a photo and pull it in as a basic 64 image, it takes a long time. Like if it was a Java built app for Android, it wouldn't be that slow at all, or you just wouldn't wait, basically. Yeah, you can talk now. Oh, yeah, just.
I'll just mention one thing with reference to camera. One of my colleagues at IBM, Simon McDonald, recently did some work in Android to get the camera performance better, because what he found was even if you requested a smaller size image, it would always go get like the standard image, which now these cameras are so much better on the phones that they're huge. And so it was doing too much work, right? Even on the native side, and then that was compounded because we were doing additional stuff. So we are looking at some of these things very closely, like the camera, and so I just wanted to mention that since you mentioned it.
But what about kind of reading files straight off the device, which that's what you're talking about, right? Reading.
Maybe
just I/O.
Yeah. Maybe just getting like a file into the memory of the JavaScript VM.
Are any of the binary formats being? I guess the binary formats supported by.
We did have something to do like a load into web SQL, didn't we? At one point in time, I don't know if we still have that.
It seems like the answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no specific
I'm going with the blank
thing.
faces, and then are you sure?
You gotta remember, man, these phones are like really not that powerful as far as a computing platform. I mean, they are, but like they're quite a tiny little computer with like really a crummy CPU and barely any RAM. So I don't know, maybe just wait for Moore's law. And shit'll get way better.
And also, since they are web apps, very easy to connect to a server to get data from. So like anytime you're hitting those like roadblocks saying the phone is taking too long to do X, just put X on a server somewhere and do it there.
Cloud.
The cloud.
So I have a question. What's PhoneGapization? PhoneGapization?
I have no idea.
No?
Never heard of it.
Do you think people, do you think users, well, okay, I was going to say, do you think users care whether it's PhoneGap or native or not? But actually, I'm going to flip it. What wouldn't you use PhoneGap to do? Like 3D racing games is the big example. Have you seen any kind of examples of?
No, that was a good example.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a pretty good
Is there
example.
anything else that you'd recommend people steering away from using PhoneGap for?
Anything that could be a web app.
Well, yeah, okay, yep. Yeah. I get the same
I mean,
thing
you
with
should
clients.
build a web
The
app
clients
first.
say, you know, this is the thing they want to build, and I'm looking at it going, yep, that's a web app, that's a web app. And then I go, but we need it to be in the App Store because we don't know how to make money from it. Okay. Okay, that's the end of the questions. Please thank all of our committers.